Task number 11. Nikto modes. This is part of the web enumeration module, which is a prerequisite of upload vulnerabilities module, which is part of the complete beginner path. So task number 11, Nikto modes. Basic scanning. The most basic scan can be performed by using the -h flag and providing an IP address or domain name as an argument. This scan type will retrieve the headers advertised by the web server or application, that is Apache 2, Apache Tomcat, Jenkins, or JBoss, and will look for any sensitive files or directories, that is login.php, admin, and so on. An example of the following is Nikto-h and then the IP of the vulnerable application. Here is also the demonstration. You can see that at the end also it's added with a colon the 8080 port. Target port, you can see it here, target IP, the host name, and then the start time. All right, here we can see files identified, right? Apache Tomcat, allowed methods, which also is a good information. Again, in the allowed headers, also we can see that put and delete. Put method could allow clients to save files. Basically just says what those do. And here we have the default JSP pages present in the index.html example servlets and index.html. We have cookie session created without the flag, right? And here we have some information disclosure and Tomcat documentation. Cool. Note a few interesting things are given to us in the example. Nikto has identified that the application is Apache Tomcat using the revicon and the presence of example servlets index.html, which is the location of the default Apache Tomcat application. HTTP methods put and delete can be performed by clients. We may be able to leverage these to exploit the application by uploading or deleting files. Scanning multiple hosts and ports. Nikto is extensive in the sense that we can provide multiple arguments in a way that's similar to tools such as Nmap. In fact, so much so, we can take input directly from an Nmap scan to scan range, a host range. By scanning a subnet, we can look for hosts across an entire network range. We must instruct Nmap to output a scan into a format that is friendly for Nikto to read using Nmap's -og flags. For example, we can scan this range. Subnet mask is this, resulting in 254 possible hosts, with Nmap using the default web port of 80 and parse the output to Nikto like so. Nmap port 80, entire range, OG, Nikto, right? So this is the syntax from Nmap that you can save the output of this scan and pass it to Nikto. There are not many circumstances where you would use this other than when you have gained access to a network. A much more common scenario will be scanning multiple ports on one specific host. We can do this by using the -p flag and providing a list of ports numbers delimited by a comma, such as the following: Nikto, and we have here the URL, and here for ports like you do on Nmap, you try to enumerate ports. Here is the example again. Introduction to plugins. Plugins further extend the capabilities of Nikto. Using information gathered from our basic scan, we can pick and choose plugins that are appropriate to our target. We can use the --list plugins flag with Nikto to list the plugins or view the whole list in an easier to read format online. Some interesting plugins include, here are redirected to the official Nikto GitHub page, and here you can see the plugin list, right? Okay. Some interesting plugins include Apache Users, CGI, Robots, Dirt Traversal. Apache users attempt to enumerate Apache HTTP authentication users. CGI looks for CGI scripts that we may be able to exploit. Robots analyzes the robots.txt file, which dictates what files or folders we are able to navigate to. Their traversal attempts to use directory traversal attack, that is looking local file inclusion, to look for system files such as etc, password on Linux. And here we see, here we see an example of file inclusion, local file inclusion, or path traversal. We can specify the plugins we wish to use by using the -plugin argument and the name of the plugin we wish to use. For example, to use the Apache user plugin, our Nikto scan would look like so: Nikto-h, IP of the application we scan, and then -plugin Apache user. Pretty simple. Okay, verbosing our scan. We can increase the verbosity of our Nikto scan by providing the following argument with the -display flag. Unless specified by the output given, it is not the entire output, as it can sometimes be irrelevant. But that isn't always the case. We have three arguments. Show any redirects that are given by the web server. Web servers may want to relocate us to a specific file or directory, so we will need to adjust our scan accordingly for this. Showing any cookies received. Application often use cookies as a means of storing data. For example, web servers use sessions where e-commerce sites may store products in your basket as these cookies. Credentials can also be stored in cookies. Output any errors. This will be useful for debugging if you are scanning, if your scan is not returning the results that you expect. Turning your scan for vulnerability searching. Nikto have several categories of vulnerabilities that we can specify for our scan to enumerate and test for. The following list is not extensive and only includes the ones that you may commonly use. We can use the -tuning flag and provide the value in our Nikto scan. And here we have file upload. We can search for file uploads, misconfiguration, default files, information disclosure, injections, command executions, and SQL injections again. Here we also see the tuning options that we can use. File uploads, search for anything on the web server that may permit us to upload a file. This could be used to upload a reverse shell for an application to execute. Misconfigurations or default files, search for common files that are sensitive and shouldn't be accessible, such as config files on the web server. Information disclosure, get the information about the web server application, that is the version numbers, IP headers, or any information that may be useful to leverage in our attack later. Injection, search for possible locations in which we can perform some kind of injections attacks such as cross-site scripting or HTML. Command execution, search for anything that permits us to execute OS commands such as spawn a shell. SQL injection, look for applications that have URL parameters that are vulnerable to SQL injections. Saving your findings. Rather than working with the output on the terminal, we can instead just dump it directly into a file for further analysis, making our lives much easier. Nikto is capable of putting to a few file formats, including text files or HTML reports. We can use the -o arguments such as the -output for long format and provide both a file name and a compatible extension. We can specify the format -f specifically, but Nikto is smart enough to use the extension to provide in the -o argument to adjust the output accordingly. And here we can see an example of that. Again, Nikto -h with the IP of the vulnerable target, -o and then the name of the report and then the extension that we want. And here actually is here we can see the command used, and here is that report opened up. All right, answer the questions below. What argument would we use if we wanted to scan port 80 and 8080 on a host? That's -p 80, 8080. What argument we use if we wanted to see any cookies given by the web server? So it's -display 2. -display 2. Awesome.